Welcome all to the Porterverse Workbench once again, and for the first time in the new year of 2023. Woo! For today's episode, we're focusing on a remnant of Dale Autonomous events, a dummy unit. Why is the example the way it is? Well, as we're going to the backstory of this dude in the Porterverse. Here we go. Around the 1990s or so, Dale Autonomous events began to pop up across the world more and more frequently, and many railways began either converting existing engines to look like Thomas, or just buying/building dummy units, some looking out better than others. This example here shown in my model is one that was built rather cheaply, as it only had 4 wheels and was a lot smaller. Not much is really known about this exact engine other than it was on a United States railroad for some time until around 2003 when it was left abandoned. Meanwhile, the real Thomas began hauling rail tours across the United States starting in 1999, visiting the Strasbourg Railroad among other railways. In around 2005, on one of his tours, Thomas would bump into one of these dummy units and become rather surprised with them, as prior to that point he had no idea they existed. He was still kind of like cool with it, as you know, marketability and everything. And he got used to it over time, especially after running into more along the way. Not much is known about the fate of this dude or his whereabouts currently in 2023. So that's kind of where the story ends. The trail goes cold. While the trail goes cold on a backstory, the model story is a whole other level. So this was made from an all-engine scope push-along Thomas that was modified to fit on an 040 chassis I had. The chassis being heavily cut down, of course. So I took the Thomas toy apart, and I stripped the paint by submerging the body in acetone overnight. I would recommend only doing this with metal materials, as acetone can sometimes melt plastic. I've seen it melt Legos before, it's kind of creepy looking. So yeah, after submerging overnight in acetone, I took out the metal body, and I scraped it with a metal wire brush to get all the paint off. Once that was done, I washed it off with some soap and water just to make sure it was extra clean. And then I primed the boy with some primer. White primer to be exact. Any brand works really. Then after letting that dry overnight, I began doing a hydro dip on this. It's very simple, you just take a bucket of water and spray it on top of the surface. As the whatever pattern floats on the surface, you can slowly dip anything into it and it'll replicate the pattern onto the whatever you're hydro dipping, you know? That's what I did with the body. This was my first time doing a hydro dip on anything, so it looks kind of rough here. But I figured since it is meant to be an abandoned engine, it kind of works. Think of it as graffiti. So yeah, after hydro dipping the body, I let it dry overnight again. And while that was drying, I began doing all chassis work. I had to cut down and remove the motor. Motor was gigantic, I had to tell you. And then I had to remove all the gears inside and all that stuff to make sure the engine free-rolled smoothly, as there's no motor in this engine, sadly. And then I took a blue paint pen to the wheels to make them blue to match. Well, sort of match, but you know. And then I repainted the toy smoke box black, as the toy I got was originally like a sparkly blue. And then I also repainted the whistles gold, as they were just yellow, and I wanted a more realistic whistle. And then took a black paint pen and painted the top of the running board black to match the railway series a bit. And then I took a hot glue gun, and then I mounted the chassis, but then afterwards, I took the tip of the hot glue gun using the heat, and I melted down the face's nose. And then made a huge melt mark you can see on the left side of him. So I can make it look like it was abandoned and worn down over time, you know? And then after a coat of matte clear, he was done. Well, I also forgot to mention, I drew on some number 1s with gold paint pen. Just to make sure you know who it is. That was my abandoned Dale Autonomous dummy unit. But we are not done here. We still have some more bench updates. So, if you remember seeing a community post a while back, you'll see that I made SpongeBob's house in HO00 scale. Well, that's not the last of it. I've also made Squidward's house from the same guy who made the print. So I'll put a link in the description so I can find the print. And for those wondering, yes, I do plan to make Patrick's house. Just need to finish him up. He is almost done, I promise. So yeah, that's kind of the whole Porterverse Workbench as it is currently. Thank you all very much for watching. The Creative Craft SMP Aquatic Arc is in the works, so stay tuned for that. And I will see you all in the next video.